I'm Ron Baker, Director of the Canadian Small Church Ministry Centre, sponsored by Small Church Connections here in Canada. And this is us, Canadian Small Churches in Action podcast. Today, our guest is from the other side of the world. Okay, just on the other side of Canada. Let's just leave it at that. And I'm looking forward to hearing from, and I had to ask the name, Sweiss. We're very close. And I'm just going to let you introduce yourself so that you can tell us how to actually pronounce it and all that sort of stuff. And we'll just get started in on a little bit of, you're going to find out. Let's go for it. So who are you? And give us some of your ministry background.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me, Ron. I am Sweiss Ubels and a service pastor at Emmanuel Church in Middleton, Nova Scotia, right here in the Annapolis Valley, just 10 kilometers away from the Bay of Fundy, highest tides in the world. That's just a little plug to come and visit us. Anyway, born and raised in Holland, actually, in the Netherlands, in a pastor's family. I never wanted to be a pastor. I always wanted to be a farmer. So I ended up going to agricultural school in the Netherlands, immigrating to the western part of Canada, lived in Alberta for a good number of years, where I lived my dream of farming, at least working on farms. And then we finally had our own smaller farm. And then God called me to ministry. And so I attended a Bible college in Alberta. Well, halfway through the training, our own pastor resigned. So I ended up doing my internship at that church. And what can I tell you about it? Was that internship didn't end for 9 years. So I was I was pastoring this church in rural Alberta out in the middle of the prairies. It was wonderful, great experience, incredibly gracious bunch of people that put up with all my crazy ideas. And I really grew there. And then that's 12 years ago now that I really sensed our time there coming to an end. And so we looked for different positions around the country. There was one that was really kind of struck me. It was really clear that renewal was needed. And so that really spoke to me. That's my call into renewal. So we made the big move across the nation, and we 5,000 kilometer drive, and here we landed. And in Middleton, Nova Scotia, just a small town, about 1,600 people in town and a few thousand around it. But yes, it's rural, that's for sure.
This sounds like this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I mean, I live close enough to Alberta to know a little bit of the ethos. Now, Maritimes, I think, would give a whole different approach to life. Would that be right? Or
yeah, I mean, how do you even talk about this, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, you came from the Netherlands, so
yeah, I mean, I got some cultural experiences along the way. It's all Western culture, of course, but it's very different. In the Netherlands, well, the entire country is smaller than the province of Nova Scotia, and we lived there with 18 million people together, so it was a whole different story. And here, Nova Scotia, a very different part of Canada. It's a long ways away from Alberta too, but in the end, all the differences, you just keep running into the same things though, right? You're dealing with people, you bring people together, there will be problems, people have their tragedies in life. So yeah, as a pastor, there are things to adapt to. But I mean, like, quite frankly, I always thought that rural Alberta had a mindset that was hard to change. And I thought, well, maybe when we get to the Maritimes, that'll be a little easier. Not quite.
I've got this thing about people. We're just plain people, and it doesn't matter where
we
you
are. People in desperate need of the grace of Jesus is what we need. So that's what we're trying to bring. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have had an interesting summer. Well, we've all come out of COVID, and I've just met with some pastors recently. And when we talked about COVID, we talked about both accelerating good and bad, but also that we're trying to find our way back, I suppose, almost. What has this last summer been like, or last while? You've done some summer activities. What has that been like for you to reach into the community?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought the community into it. This was COVID was hard, and Nova Scotia had a very cautious approach. Our leadership of the church is very cautious as well. So we were closed for a long time, everything online, pre-recorded. At the same time, really serious about doing living room church. So having small groups, consistent small groups coming together, all that. That was reasonably successful. The discipleship component of the Great Commission, we really ramped that up during COVID, like small groups, meeting online, whatever. So that was all good. But coming out of COVID, once everything was starting to roll again, 2022 was just really hard. And I keep hearing that from other pastors too. So we're no different. But what I recognize is, though people began to meet again with each other, though community was rebuilding, we weren't meeting with near as many people that we were before. We weren't connecting with near as many people as before. And so by this spring, 2022, bit of a disappointing year. I thought we'd be bouncing back way more. But that realization was like, there's still a lot of community to be rebuilt. We just had this idea, well, let's go meet our neighbors. And well, that idea is why he contacted me, Ron. It was the pop-up barbecues. Actually, our ministry assistant, she came up with the name for this thing. Our church, Emmanuel Church, has always been big on meals and food. We've got a huge kitchen in this building. So that's always been a big part of our history. But we had this all rickety, worn out barbecue. And we thought, well, let's just drag it over to the old hospital, which is just 3 doors down here. It's got 17 apartment units in it now. And we'll just try it. So we got a box of burgers and some hot dogs and some chips. And we borrowed somebody's canopy just in case it rained. And the first night we did this, it was literally thunderstorms to the west and to the east. And we're like, is this going to work? But there we were. We just hung up a few flyers in the foyer of the building, and we just invited people to show up 5:30, and we had the barbecue going when they showed up. And I'm telling you, it just did something to my heart when I saw these people coming out and beginning to visit with each other. They had been living in the same building for months, even years, and didn't know each other. And all it took was our rusted out barbecue showing up with a few volunteers to throw a little party. And they began to introduce themselves to each other. And it was like, oh man, we get to be part of this. It was just a marvelous evening. And those of us who served that first night, we were looking at each other and said, man, this is a thing. This has got to happen. We're onto something here. So the beauty of not having done a whole lot of outreach during COVID is that we had some money in the piggy bank. So we just went out and bought the equipment, spent $900 or whatever it was on a canopy and on a portable barbecue that did not rattle apart, and some of those things. And we took it on the road every week. We identified another place to pop up a barbecue. Oh my goodness, we've had so much fun.
Yeah, not only would that be fun, but I would think for the town itself, it would be an advantageous thing after COVID, plus just getting people together and talking and getting to know each other and realizing, there are some good people around, maybe.
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing we learned really quickly is, like, don't advertise it all over town.
Okay.
Because Middleton's got all kinds of challenges. There's a lot of people that would love to just show up at your barbecue week in, week out. And that's fine. It's just that wasn't the purpose. We wanted to get to know our neighbors, or these people in these communities. And so we found it was about a sweet spot, about 20, 25 guests. Mm-hmm. You get many more than that, and the conversations wouldn't go as deep. And so we advertised it by just somebody would go out to just hand out some flyers to the different homes in the senior complex or wherever it was. And we put up a little teepee sign, kind of hidden away from the street, but visible to the people who lived in that community. And on that day, and then we just show up. So yeah, but people during the summer did start looking for where's the sign. So that was kind of cool. So yeah, but yeah, the whole point was, don't make it too big. So if you want to do this thing, if you want to give this a try, do not do the thing that you always do for any outreach thing, is like make it big, draw as many people as you can. Just keep it small. So
well, I mean, and that's usually what we want to do. We want to get as many people as possible, so that but what you're saying is hone in on the small group, the sort of the home group, smaller type of approach. Yeah.
So like basically what we did, Sunday happens. Monday was kind of a day off. We try to keep that off. And on Tuesday morning, we make the call. Do we do this thing this week or not? Kind of depending on the weather forecast, when you would do it. And then we would decide as well as like where we're going to do this. And so I think we did 9 this past summer, and 9 of these pop-up barbecues. And so each time was at a different place. And each had its own flavor. But man,
it really was a pop-up in the sense that you didn't have a schedule for the next 3 months all laid out as to which one you were going to. It was popping up. Is that?
Yeah. We just go for it. I don't know. We sit around. It's like, what's a good place? Well, there's a couple apartment buildings in that end of town. If we invite them, we'll just do it in that parking lot. And all right. And then, well, what about that seniors low income place? Well, let's go there. And what about that? Yeah.
Were there any other things that you included, or that sort of I would say popped up as the summer went on? Other activities that you ended up doing as well?
Yeah, so this really became the big thing. But even before COVID, our seniors ministry has been doing about 8 seniors events each year. They shut down over the summer, during the winter months, because people have trouble getting around. But that kicked off again this spring as well. So we ran that right through the summer as well. So that's more invitational. People come to the church building, and there's a hymn saying, there's for half an hour, and then we're having a meal, and then there's some type of program with that. Sometimes it's just entertainment. Sometimes it's just bringing people some memories back from days gone by. Like, there's all kinds of different things. So yeah, so that was on the schedule as well. And then we had an end of summer bash as well, just in our parking lot. It was we had a big barbecue there in the Bounce Castle, and we did that in conjunction with something we've been doing for years now, is a clothing giveaway. There's a lot of needs in our community. Inflation is a thing, but even when we moved here 12 years ago, we knew we were moving to a part of the country that's just not quite as affluent as other parts, and that really shows up in this community here. A lot of the support services are available in town here, and so that draws a certain crowd, and so we're trying to speak into that. So we've been doing these clothing giveaways. Our people donate. There's another organization in the area that does quite a bit of this, so we partner with them, and so we had, 20 tables loaded with clothing out in our parking lot. And so then the games and the bounce castle, we built a candy cannon that always draws a lot.
Way too much fun.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we really drew a big crowd for that. And yeah, anyway.
So all of those things contribute to a great way to get into the community and to be seen in the community. Are you looking forward to anything for this fall? And well, we're almost into winter. Let's be honest about it. But
Christmas is around the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we okay. So I think traditionally as a church, we've been reasonably good at inviting people to our events, but we all know the Great Commission, of course, tells us to go as well. And that's really been speaking to me. And it's been part of the realization this summer that when we started taking our barbecue other places, we began to meet people we didn't know lived in this town. And this is not a big town. We should have seen them at some point, right? And we just didn't see them. And so all these micro communities everywhere. So the going is something that's spoken deeply to me and to a good number in our church. And so we for Christmas we said we got to do this. We got to go. And here we go. We're committed. Next week, Friday, the town has its Christmas tree lighting ceremony, and the Santa's going to show up and all this, and we're going to take a pop-up barbecue out there.
Great idea! Yeah.
So we have no idea how many people are going to show up for that, and there will be invitations then to connect with people further, right? To draw them into something else, and another step of the journey. So that's next week. Then Middleton is reviving a Christmas parade towards Christmas there, and so we're committed to putting a float in. I don't think we've done that here. We got volunteers building a stable on a trailer.
Yeah.
So the nativity scene on a 16-foot trailer, and we ordered some banners from the side. Yeah, just kind of, well, they actually say God loves you, so do we, and then the Emmanuel's URL at the bottom. So yeah, so that's that. We're excited about that. We're going into the local nursing home doing a pageant. We've been doing that for years. Yeah, so the whole idea of going is it's really spoken to us. And then, of course, quite frankly, we can be going and just be really nice people. But I think the next part of our growth in this will be to actually begin to proclaim the good news in that as well, to actually begin to speak, and not just the pastor, but for our people to speak the good news of Jesus. So I'm not sure we're quite there yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, what type of things are you thinking regarding that? Speak. I hear very much an attitude that I have in the small town I live in. We want to be in the community, we want to be part of the community, but the question of speaking Jesus into the community, how do we do that effectively? I mean, the people want to do that, but so yeah, have you got some great ideas? And
oh, I don't know. We're gonna call me in January, see what works.
Maybe we'll start a little chat back and forth between all of the people that listen, and
yeah. No, that'd be wonderful. Like, throw your good ideas in the comments. That would be very helpful. We can all learn from each other. But yeah, so we did think through some of this, and so I don't know how effective this is going to be, but let's see it as this. Like, it'll be more than what we've done before. So at these different places where we go, we will be very clear in inviting people to our Christmas Eve worship service, which we now have designed to really proclaim the good news. And one of the things that's going to be part of that is like a cardboard testimony to show that Jesus is still relevant in our lives in the 21st century. So I think that's going to be really a powerful moment. In addition, we got a whole crew of people coming together to make some Christmas ornaments out of horseshoe nails. This is my cowboy days, maybe out west.
It works for me.
Yeah, right. So these little crosses with a little card explaining to remind people of the good news of Jesus. We're going to hand those out at the end of our Christmas Eve service for those who attend. And then at the parade, actually, where you could just go and hand out candy canes, but we're actually attaching a little brochure to that with 3 different perspectives on the nativity, on the Christmas story, and it's thoroughly Christian, and it's inviting, and it's so we're trying to take that extra step and have something available to follow up on, in the sense of we invite you. The next step for you to participate in this or engage this possibly is to come out to our Christmas Eve service. So that's. Yeah, and it's part of like what we did this past summer, like these pop-up barbecues. Don't make it too big. So you can actually build these relationships and have conversations. And we have seen that. So yeah, these barbecues too, we've seen tons of people willing to volunteer, and you see then too that people have these different gifts, right? Yeah. And some people are just the organizers, and some people are just great in that barbecue. Some people just love to put the relish and the ketchup on it and all that kind of thing. and then some of us have never touched any of that, and we're just mingling with the people and just inviting people in and having some really good conversations. And so yeah, different strengths, I'm trying to use those.
Now, I think of small churches, but this probably goes across to large churches too. This just whole being part of the community. And if you're looking at this and moving further, what do you see for discipleship? You talked a little bit about renewal and home groups and discipleship and that type of thing. Are you thinking ahead to those people that may join? What might be a possibility there?
Yeah, so I think if people engage the journey through our community, that we're ready for them to walk with them. There's a different curriculum to take them on a fairly directed journey. So I think that's wonderful. I should tell you too, I forgot this little thing.
Okay.
We've got, we kicked something in gear again, but started in January, something called King's Kitchen. And it's one free meal, hot meal a week, every Tuesday night.
Oh,
Doors open at 5:30. The meal's served, and yeah, and it's a simple meal with friendly people. That's the thing. So between the meal and dessert, we do a little presentation of some kind. So one week we'll do some music and people sing along, and again, the crowd that shows up. Yeah, there's a lot of people with challenges in our community. The physical challenge, intellectual challenges, addiction issues, and so a lot of them show up. So we adapt to that, and then the next week we'll have a presentation that's more spoken. So this week we have one that there's a guy who loves evangelism, and he had these. So he had a whole group of volunteers, and he laid out the good news of Jesus. So it was well received by people. Actually, it was yes, because you know how it is in small communities, right? Friendship evangelism, and we don't want to turn people off because then they won't come anymore, and we lose
exactly.
So you try to walk that, but no, this was just done in a very tasteful way, and it was well received. So all that to say, after New Year, it's going to run for 23 weeks this winter season. These free meals. After New Year, we're going to attach Alpha to that again.
Oh, okay.
So then we'll just have the meal, and whoever wants to take Alpha comes out back, watches the video, and has the discussion. So
now I'm presuming within a small town there may be one or two other churches. Well, depending. How do you work ecumenically? I guess isn't really the right word, but how do you work with the other churches in town? Do you each have a niche or an area that you're dealing with?
yeah, so the Maritimes dotted with church buildings, right? I don't know if you've been here, but it really will stand out. If you've never been here, you'll see that just churches everywhere, and old churches, and a lot of them are no longer functioning church congregations. They're now cottages or whatever, community centers, all that. But in town, yes, we have a number of churches. We've really got an incredible friendship with our friends across the soccer pitch, legitimately. And there's a high school with a soccer pitch, and then the other side is the local Baptist church. And I'm telling you, we've been friends from the week one that I've been here, and we work together on all kinds of things. We'll do services together. We forever working together. So yeah, it's really a partnership, and I don't even know how far to go with that, because it to some degree that's John 17, right? We talked about the prayer of Jesus and the high priestly prayer, and then he prays for this unity for those who would follow the disciples, and it's a huge thing in my mind. So I lead a local network here. Well, it's a Nova Scotian network, but the local gathering, I lead that, I facilitate that. So it's huge to me. And the pastor at the Baptist church and I, we have this deep friendship, and it's brought our churches together in all kinds of different ways, and so supportive. And but by this, the world will know, right?
Yeah.
So it's really powerful. I'm glad you asked about it.
Let me ask another question, and some of this is coming out of my own thinking and living where I'm living in a small town, rural Saskatchewan. The question of the home groups that were around in COVID, continuing on, I presume some of those people. What would you say are the elements of those groups that keep them together, that work towards unity and towards growth in Christ? And just what kind of elements do you see in those groups?
I mean, it's a spread, right? Like if I consider all the groups that meet through the ministry of Emmanuel Church, I mean, it's kind of all over the map, but the ones that work the best are the groups that just really put God's will first. They like, I mean, we don't necessarily like to do this, or this would not be our preference, but it doesn't matter because this is your will. So that's what we do. So, so I've seen during COVID, we've seen our small groups just come alive. They were all meeting online, and they started going deep. In fact, we're using this curriculum that really requires people to do some homework, daily readings, reflections, confession, like meditation, scripture memory, all the hard stuff a lot of people don't want to do, right?
Can you tell me what curriculum are you using? for that?
Oh, we're part of this church renewal network
Ah,
out of Steinbach, and you have the Way,
oh,
and it's a
right.
whole
Yeah.
series of different things. And the Abide curriculum just came live at that point in early 2020, and I'm like, this is great stuff. And
Yeah.
our people are sitting at home bored. This is my chance. So I don't know how many groups I was part of that spring, but it worked great. And and I saw people beginning to grow in their faith like never before, like in a short period of time. But they were doing all the heavy lifting. I would just
Mhm.
like look at this like, okay, it's Friday 1 o'clock, like it's my meeting. I got half an hour to get ready for this meeting. What did they read this week? Because I was leading all these different groups, right? And so it was like Sunday morning inverted. Like Sunday morning, the pastor does all the heavy lifting. The pastor spends hours of studying and this and that, and the people just kind of show up. Now I was just kind of showing up, facilitating a discussion about all the heavy lifting they had done, and it just really worked. And some of these groups um, have really embraced that. And so what we see, like we had a men's group that like had a small group leader, and he would lead everything. So say that group, I began to lead it during COVID, and I was leading, facilitating, and then we passed it off to somebody else. And that guy now says like, well, I don't have to do all this work. So we're now taking turns leading this. So we got people who have never led a small group in their life, and they're not going to get caught like not being prepared, right? So these guys dig in, and they've just been growing. It's just been such a wonderful thing to watch. But yeah, it's they're doing the things that they don't necessarily choose to do, that we wouldn't choose to do. It's the hard stuff, the reflections, So
Oh,
it
okay.
was,
I hate to say this, but our time's almost up here.
oh man, this
I
is
don't know
way
how
too
that
much fun.
happened, so here we are. So I'll go with one last question that I usually ask in these podcasts, and that is there one piece of advice that you'd give to those in leadership, pastors in a small church, those that are leading in a small church? Any piece of advice that you think would be important?
It's going to sound trite, but I really, really, really believe this, and it's I mean, in your leading your flock, uh, don't let the flock drive you. You stay connected to our master, to the good shepherd, and like abide in him, allow him to lead you, and give that direction. Because so often in small churches, I've seen this time and again, the people in the church, the sheep want to tell the shepherd where we're going, and it's like no, 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 no. But for us to know where we're going, and for us to stay strong in leading our people, we have to stay connected to our shepherd, and that's the biggest, most
Mhm.
important.
All right. Well, this has been great. Thank you very much. I wish we had more time. Maybe we'll have to do this again at some point.
Yeah, you may have to call back in January to see how it all worked out.
Yeah, well, that may be a good question. That may be a good idea. All right.
It's been
Thanks, Mike.
wonderful, Ron. Thank you.
Thank you.